Before embarking last summer on our road trip across Europe and Asia, my brother and I, along with our friends Rosie and Jane, spent nearly a year planning the details. We pored over maps to decide on a tentative route, we made estimates of how many miles we thought we'd drive each day, and Rosie even created a spreadsheet listing all the cities where we'd stay. But after we left the start line, it didn't take long at all before we threw many of those plans out the window. First, there was the short stopover with our friends in Belgium when we decided to spend the night instead of continuing on to Germany. Here's my brother Drew reflecting on the change of course.
I love how our dad and my girlfriend have been like, oh, can you send a general itinerary? We realize it's probably going to change a little bit here or there. We're a completely different country.
While our stay in Belgium ended up being totally worth it, it did set us back a bit. So we adjusted our itinerary and took a new route, south through Luxembourg to southern Germany, where we crashed with a friend for the night. After that, with our original path through Prague and Budapest scuttled, we ended up in downtown Vienna, where a young guy named Jerry stopped us on the street and struck up a conversation. We found out he was a psychotherapist who'd moved there from Cologne.
We were going to stay in Cologne last night. And then
Why did you end up in Vienna if you were...
Why did you end up in Vienna if you were going to Cologne, he laughed. My brother jumped in.
We just started. This is our third day.
This is our third day.
We spent hours making up a plan, and have we done any of it yet? No. Not one single night.
We had a hotel booked in Cologne.
Yeah.
Which we had to pay for.
In case you're confused by the tone of Rosie and Jane's voices, I should explain that they weren't really angry. I mean, yes, we were now flying by the seat of our pants, figuring it all out as we went along, but in all seriousness, we were totally willing to go with the flow, and everyone agreed it was more fun that way. Jerry gave us some tips for things to see during our short stay in Vienna, and then we said goodbye.
Well, thank you so much for your help. You should check out our website. We're being tracked by satellite, so you could follow our route as we go along.
Definitely will.
So,
Seeing if you end up or if you have to call.
Right.
I don't know.
We'll see.
And also, if you wanted to look up Sugar and Spice, because
that's their team.
That's our team name.
Yes.
And we've got every possibility of finishing. The interesting thing for you to do is to see whether we finish and they finish.
He said he hoped we both finished.
I would hope so too.
We're determined the four of us are going to finish one way or another, even if we're pulling each other, even if they're sitting in the boot, we will finish together.
I'm Scott Gurian. I'm a longtime public radio and print reporter, and I've always loved traveling and experiencing different cultures, so I've created this podcast called Far From Home to document my adventures. To start off, I'm telling the story of this massive journey my brother and I took with our friends, raising money for charity. We drove nearly 11,000 miles.
11,000?
That's right, a quarter of the way around the Earth, from London to Mongolia, through 18 countries, 8 time zones, 5 mountain ranges, and a few deserts, in a ridiculously tiny car.
It's like the Beverly Hillbillies.
It's not for the faint of heart.
It's the adventure, isn't it? It's just the thing of pushing yourself to the absolute limit, because I think it's going to take us out of our comfort zone, but in a really good way.
If you're just joining me, I suggest you first go back and listen to all the previous episodes in order to get up to speed and for all of this to make a bit more sense. From language barriers to car trouble, getting horribly lost, to paying bribes to shady traffic cops, it's been quite an amazing experience, and over the coming episodes, I'll be bringing all of you along with me for the ride. On this episode, we continue our trek across Europe towards the Turkish border, and the farther east we go, the more exciting the journey becomes. It was leaving Vienna when we first noticed the highway getting narrower and more bumpy. We crossed into Hungary, where we turned on the radio and listened to what sounded like a soap opera.
Tedd ide a kezed. Érzed? Most is mozog.
Érzem.
Ígérd meg, hogy ő rá jobban vigyázol. Ő a miénk.
A few hours later, after crossing yet another border, we found ourselves driving through a rural part of western Romania.
This is interesting. We're really getting to see the country much more so than we would have seen from the highway.
Because there was no highway.
Because there was no highway, basically. We were on the highway, and then signs kind of diverted us off, and it looked like they ran out of money to finish building the highway. It just kind of ended and sent us off on a side road. We've been driving through villages now, and I kind of feel like the roads on our entire trip are going to get a lot more interesting from here on. So here we are. We've just pulled into a gas station to fill up, and it looks like there's actually gas attendants here, which is probably a luxury.
I don't know if we're going to find that in many places along the way.
And they have really cool uniforms.
Yeah, they do, don't they?
They have these like yellow overalls and matching hats.
After we filled up, my brother ran in to pay, and he returned a few minutes later with some souvenirs.
Okay, so we're back in the car now. Drew, you just picked up a few things for the road. What do you have here?
Paprika chips
Well,
with sunflower oil.
Well, we've seen all these sunflowers we keep driving past along the road. I guess this is where all the sunflower oil comes from, apparently from this part of the world. And of course, Hungary, we passed through a little bit earlier, known for its paprika. And so we got some paprika flavored potato chips, of course. And what is this now?
I have no idea. It's a
CD.
Romanian musician named Sandu Ciorba.
Okay, so you bought this CD at the gas station. Did someone recommend this to you?
I couldn't help myself because of the quality of the photography.
I know, it's just kind of irresistible.
He looks like a 1980s Romanian porn star or something. He's got like Ron Jeremy hair, and
I would say it's almost like Weird Al Yankovic kind of hair. He's just kind of standing there. He looks kind of angry.
Which way are we going? I guess left.
We're going left. Yeah, we're continuing on our way.
Bye, guys.
Yeah, goodbye to the stray dogs at the gas station. So, when in Romania, do as the Romanians do. We need some Romanian music for our drive. So let's see what this sounds like.
Yes! Oh, this is just what we needed.
You could ask for more stereotypical.
Oh, it's so
Our GPS sent us through small villages where we passed old ladies carrying handfuls of freshly dug carrots and guys with weathered faces hanging out on their front steps with their shirts rolled up, exposing their protruding stomachs. Now, don't get me wrong, Western Europe was cool and all, but now it truly felt like we were in a totally different part of the world. And best of all, we had a soundtrack for our journey, which we just had to share with our friends Rosie and Jane, who were driving behind us.
You've got to listen to this CD in a bit. This is wonderful.
I played some of it for them over our radios so they could hear it for themselves.
Now we want more Romanian music.
Now you got to listen to it on the CD. It's better than over the walkie-talkie.
We want it now.
Can we give it to them now?
Locals drove past us, and seeing we were foreigners, they gave us the thumbs up. Though one taxi driver gave us a skeptical glance, as if to say, who are these clowns in their ridiculous rally cars?
The best part of the journey so far, she says.
It ended up being a really long day, much longer than we'd expected from the time estimate our GPS had given us when we started out that morning. So it was pretty late, and we were all thoroughly exhausted by the time we arrived at the Transylvanian city of Sibiu, where we planned to spend the night.
Our time change.
Two borders to cross.
But only one that we had to actually stop at.
Yeah, that's true, but you know...
And we never even stopped for a meal today.
I know.
And it still took us 4 hours more than we thought.
Yeah.
So an 8-hour drive took 12 and a half. That last hour was like 4 hours.
That was hard. We really felt for you guys because you were leading, and that's even harder than us following.
It was the roads. There were certain parts where there were no lines, and it was pretty tough.
Yeah.
I've never experienced that before.
We were actually quite lucky in that the worst of the roads, there was still a little bit of daylight.
Yeah.
And when that rain came, I began to worry a little bit.
I feel like after we got off that first highway and we started driving through local roads and everything, I feel like that was when the rally really began, you know?
That's so interesting. We said exactly the same thing.
Yeah.
Because with the motorways, they're a means to an end, aren't they? I mean, they serve a purpose. We knew we were going to do this mad dash through Europe, but I think nonetheless we still underestimated how much of a flog it would be. But when you start feeling that you're seeing the country and you start to identify the differences in the countries.
Seeing the women in the babushkas and the people in the different types of like Eastern European cars, it felt different than everything else we've seen so far.
I did. Totally agree.
We were barely able to keep our eyes open, so we went right to bed. After breakfast the next morning, we decided to spend some time walking around the city center, and we were impressed by what we saw. Sibiu had these gorgeous stucco homes with buckled terracotta roofs, some of which dated back to the 15th and 16th centuries.
Oh, look at that! What? Just the old house. Look at the houses looking up to the steeple. Oh, look at that greenhouse. I particularly like that greenhouse.
I wonder how old these buildings are. They look ancient, but in a beautiful way.
I was going to say, with the paint peeling off them,
it
just actually enhances how lovely it is.
At one point, we turned a corner and peered through an archway to an amazingly scenic courtyard down some steps, and it was almost like we were staring at a facade on the set of a romantic movie. We couldn't help but be blown away.
Oh my God! Who saw that coming?
Oh my goodness.
You know that idea that we had of staying in one place and photoshopping in other parts of the trip? I think we should stay here. You can photoshop us into various deserts, and we'll just stay here.
Shane chimed in.
Do you know what? This is so stunning. I don't care if we don't get to wherever we're going to till 2 a.m. in the morning. This is worth every minute. You can't not do this because this is so
I agree.
perfect.
Rosie, who had recruited all of us to join her on this trip, wanted to make sure we savored the experience.
I need you to remember this moment. I need you to remember the feelings of pleasure and enjoyment and relaxation and how much you love me because it was me that talked you into this. I need you to remember this moment because there may be other moments along the way when you think, God, I hate that cow. just putting it out there.
So we've left Sibiu, and now we are heading up the mountain slowly in what's supposed to be one of the most scenic drives in the world, the Trans-Făgărașan Highway in Romania. We saw the mountains from a distance that we're going to be going over, and they looked pretty steep, so it would be probably a little bit more exciting in some kind of high-performance car that had fast pickup going up and down the mountains. We're in a little tiny car with a 1-liter engine, so we're just taking our time here, but should still be pretty.
Hear the engine roar.
We stopped at a roadside stand halfway up the mountain for some delicious lunch of grilled corn, fried cabbage pies, and polenta cakes with Romanian sour cream. Then we continued our climb around a series of windy hairpin turns that looked like the aerial shots you'd see in a car commercial.
Whoa. Now it's 1 lane.
Okay. The road
It was 2 lanes and now it's 1 lane. Oh, you know why? Because look at the road next to us. It disappeared.
It
slid out.
Okay.
This used to be a 2-lane road.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Now it's 2 lanes again.
Okay.
Half the road just fell off the side of the mountain, apparently.
This is the part in driving lessons where Rob was saying trying not to drive off a cliff.
So far I'm doing all right.
Finally, we arrived at the top, where we had a clear view of the Trans-Făgărașan Highway down below.
This is amazingly beautiful. Look at oh, wow. I don't even know how to describe it. We're like in a valley here, almost like above the tree line. It's grassy hillsides around us on both sides. We're pulled over to the side of this winding road. Look at the little streams up there coming down of water from the mountains. This is just so picturesque.
I know. It's just unbelievable. Actually being here.
I've seen so many pictures of this, but actually...
It's not the same as being here.
I could see what you mean.
It's just,
look at this road. Well, okay, 1, 2, I'm counting the switchbacks. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I don't know what counts as a switchback. Some are not as sharp as the rest, but 11, 12, 13, there's one there, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19. I can't even count. I mean, we're getting up to 2 miles high here. This is amazing.
We'd started out the day wearing shorts and t-shirts, but we kept adding layers as we got to higher elevations and the temperature dropped. So now we had on our warmest jackets.
Can you imagine what winter's like here?
Oh, I'm sure. This has to be harsh. I mean, as it is, this is the end of July and it's a little chilly up here.
I am
buttocks
I
off.
know.
You're going to be remembering these freezing temperatures fondly when you're in the middle of the Iranian desert,
I
you know?
It's freezing. I had no idea.
It was around this time, just a few days into our 7-week journey, that we noticed the first signs of car trouble. Now, none of us knew much of anything about car maintenance or repairs, so if you remember back in episode 4, we met with Dave Donald at West Nottingham College's Institute of Motor Industries to get some basic advice before we hit the road.
Every morning before you leave, what you'll do is you'll do oil levels, make sure everything's okay, oil, water, and all your fluids.
Yeah.
Okay? Look, see if something looks untoward. And then just very quickly start from the right, battery's fine, fuse box covers on, check your water level. Most important.
Ever since we left, we'd been following Dave's instructions, doing our regular checks, and we started seeing something potentially troubling. While the car seemed to be running fine, the radiator overflow tank, which helps keep the engine cool, was emptying out much faster than normal, putting us at risk of overheating. And we didn't see a visible leak, so we couldn't figure out why this was happening. We did have some radiator stop leak fluid with us, and we considered adding it to our tank just in case there was a leak somewhere that we didn't know about. But I texted my friend Rob, who knows a lot about cars and actually runs a radiator shop back in New Jersey, and he said to hold off for the time being, since the stop leak fluid can sometimes cause more problems than it solves. The next morning, after spending the night in a kind of tacky apartment in downtown Bucharest, my brother and I debated whether to follow Rob's advice.
I don't disagree with Rob's comment, but I wonder though if what Rob was saying about it's the absolute last resort, don't use it screws up a system, is him. He owns a radiator shop. That's what he does for a living.
Yeah.
But he's obviously a perfectionist because that's what he does. And I wonder if he wouldn't put it in his car, so he doesn't want us to put it in ours. Right. Thinking about potentially a newer car, not a beater.
Yeah, I agree. Not a shit heap.
Granted, even if this is a beater, it doesn't need to get us to Mongolia.
Yeah.
So I don't know where that balance is. And I read online as well, you should never put it in a new modern car, but it's good for an older car.
Okay.
We're going to need to get it looked at, but I think it's not a dire, we could drive a few hours. I don't think it's not leaking out that fast. I sure hope not.
No, let's just put an alarm on. We'll stop.
We'll check it out
every
today
couple of hours.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. And then first thing in the morning, or tonight if they're still open, let's take it in.
I agree. We should be fine driving for a few hours. We hadn't checked in the last 2 days. We forgot yesterday morning.
Okay.
That's the thing.
Okay. So, and how far down was it?
Completely empty.
Oh shit.
So with our water level unexpectedly dropping, we were obviously a bit worried, but we decided for now to do what Rob said. Instead of trying to fix this on our own, we'd seek professional help at our next stopover city. You'll be better off solving this while you're still in Europe, Rob texted me. Best case scenario, it's the radiator or hose or something minor. We crossed the Danube River, past what looked like an industrial shipping port, and arrived at the entrance to Bulgaria, where a confused border guard looked at our car and asked if we had driven there all the way from New York.
Came from America?
Yes, no, from the UK, near London.
We're driving to Mongolia.
Can you please auto document?
Oh, yes, auto documents right here. Here you go.
Okay.
He took our car papers and passports back to a booth and told us to wait. Now, let me tell you the backstory of what was going on here so you could understand why we were feeling a bit nervous. As I've mentioned in previous shows, we were planning on driving through Iran on our trip, but we were concerned that having Iranian stamps in our passports could potentially cause future problems when we visited other countries that aren't so friendly to Iran. So my brother and I did something many people don't even realize is possible. We applied for and obtained duplicate American passports. But then came the tricky part. At first, we were just going to use those duplicate passports for Iran and our regular passports everywhere else, but we worried that might make some border guards suspicious. Like, what if Iranian authorities started asking questions because they realized the passports we gave them never had exit stamps from Turkey? Or what if we used our duplicate passports starting in Turkey and officials there noticed we'd somehow arrived at their doorstep without ever getting stamped out of Bulgaria? After some discussion, we decided that here at the Romania-Bulgaria border was where we'd switch over to our blank duplicate passports for the next several countries on our trip. Suffice to say, we had no idea what would happen. After about 5 minutes, a different guy from the one who had taken our documents, a guy who was much less friendly, walked back over to us.
Passport?
I'm sorry?
Passport?
Yeah, we gave them to him. He took them along with the registration.
Who is going?
There's all four of us are driving together.
He removed our passports from his pocket and handed them back to us. He didn't utter another word, but he shot us a nasty glance that seemed to say, "Get the hell out of here," so we quickly complied.
Is that okay? Okay.
Okay. Let's go.
He looked pissed.
My brother and I got back in our car.
Okay.
Oh, before they change their mind.
Huh? Yeah, before they change their minds.
Seriously. Yeah, that guy was not happy we didn't have snaps. I'm sure that's what it was. It makes no sense how we're here. He just didn't want to screw with.
Yeah, he's like, I had better things to do with my time.
We arrived that evening in the city of Plovdiv and spent some time walking the cobblestone streets of the historic downtown. But as much as we were enjoying ourselves, we couldn't help but continue to worry about our radiator issues.
Still nothing's leaked out of it.
It's dribbling out. It's never, when you move away, I always check and I look under your car.
And it's,
Maybe it's just going through the water really fast.
Yeah,
But that's
be an
not
old engine.
normal.
I mean,
We were heading next to Turkey and Iran, where we feared it could be hard to find spare parts. So the next morning, we went to a local garage. As we pulled up and he saw our ridiculous-looking rally car, the owner, a guy named Angelov, started cracking up laughing. "I'll do whatever you need me to do to fix your car," he said.
where should we pull this?
First tell me what happened and why you came here.
"I'm sure I could offer you a coffee," he joked, "but unfortunately I have to repair the car as well." We told him all about the Mongol rally and then explained the issues we were having.
So it seems to be some kind of a slow leak.
Like yesterday morning, we filled it up to like here, and now it's down,
Almost to the bottom.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's a hose maybe, or
radiator, or worse.
What do you think? You look concerned.
One of his workers said something to him in Bulgarian.
What did he say? Get a new car?
Why the hell don't you have an air conditioner? He said.
It's too small of an engine.
We're wondering that too. We're about to go to Turkey and Iran, so an air conditioner would help in Iran probably.
Can you give us an AC too?
After some more joking, he got serious and explained his course of action. First, he'd have his guys search for a leak. Then he'd check the exhaust from the radiator cooling system. Finally, he'd run an engine pressure test to see if there were any bigger problems.
Before we start, something to tell.
Sure.
Find a way to fix it, no matter how, no matter when, no matter with whom. Because the real problem with the preheated motor come with the heat from outside. So when you go to Turkey, when you go
Kazakhstan,
Iran, it's something like 50 degrees, which means that this car will run something like 5 kilometers, take the water out. And from taking it, the final result will be a dead engine.
What he meant was that the desert temperatures we'd encounter would make our radiator go through water even faster than normal. So it was important to get this repaired, otherwise we'd run the risk of blowing a head gasket, a serious and expensive problem that could spell the end of our journey. He asked for our keys and registration, and then started it up.
I used to drive one of that.
One of the Nissan
I learned to drive with a Micra.
Are Micras popular here in Bulgaria?
We have them, but you can see them everywhere.
Yeah.
If asking for second-hand parts, I think that we can find. Don't worry.
Good. Okay, it's good.
First, let's see what we need.
Yeah.
"I love this guy," my brother said, "but I'll love him even more if he could fix our problems." One of Angelov's workers opened the hood and let the car run for about 15 minutes, studying it closely, and then he drove it around the block a few times. After he returned, he called us over to explain the situation.
Well, you said there's no leak in the radiator.
No.
And the hoses are fine.
The hoses are fine, yes.
Yeah.
But he did find something else.
Only here is...
So you think there's a leak in the tank?
I think this is the problem.
So that's the good thing, right?
Yeah.
That's an easy...
The cheap way.
Right.
Yeah.
We went back to speak with Angelov.
So I guess it's like a slow leak from the tank, he was thinking?
Absolutely.
That's good, yeah.
Well, it could be a lot worse, right?
Some kind of a perfect.
It's
Some
perfect.
kind of a perfect.
Perfect, we got very lucky, you're saying.
Well, yeah, because if it wasn't that,
it'd be very bad.
We have to take off the cylinder head.
Oh,
which,
yeah.
first of all, gonna take us 2 days. Second of all, it's gonna take you much more money than you want to spend for the car.
Sure. Yeah.
So this is the good news.
Okay.
The bad news, we don't have a new one yet.
Right.
I tell my colleague to try to find a second-hand one. I hope that it's going to be a decent one. We have a couple of places with friends where we can search.
Okay.
I cannot guarantee that we will be able to find.
Right.
But we can try.
We spent the next hour or two waiting in anticipation as they scoured the internet and made a bunch of phone calls to find a parts supplier in town that had a replacement tank. Unfortunately, it was the weekend, so a lot of places were closed. Finally, my brother gave me an update.
They found a second-hand tank that's the same as ours, but it's in the same condition and they don't trust it. And the only way that they can get a new tank is not until Monday.
Yeah.
And today's Saturday, and obviously we can't wait till Monday.
Sure.
So what they've done is they just took the tank out of the car, they disconnected it, emptied it out, they're cleaning it right now, drying it, and siliconing all of the seams. And they think that that'll be perfect.
Do you think that will work all the way to Mongolia? I asked one of the guys in the garage. Maybe, he replied, but Angelov was more optimistic.
The car is nice, it runs perfectly. The cooling system is absolutely amazingly perfect run.
Okay.
So I really hope that it's gonna run it down through all the warm countries that pass. Run it normally, I don't think you have any kind of a problem.
It had taken them several hours to diagnose and fix our issue, but they only charged us the equivalent of $17. So we bought them some beers and let them autograph our car, and we thanked them profusely for their help.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Thank you for squeezing us in. I know you were busy.
Angelov told us again not to worry, and he sent us on our way. We were feeling pretty good at this point, like our mechanical troubles were now behind us. But that feeling unfortunately didn't last for very long.
Since we left the mechanic shop, we've been driving down the highway towards the Turkish border. I don't know, maybe we've been going an hour. It's pretty hot out here. We just stopped at a rest stop. My brother got out to just check everything under the hood, and we thought everything was sealed up. We thought we fixed the problem, but it looks like already we've lost a fair amount of water. So we're a little concerned. We don't know what to do at this point.
What's more, we had a long drive ahead of us, including a border crossing into Turkey. It had been just days since the attempted coup, and we didn't know what things were like, so we'd hoped to get an early start to avoid driving after dark. But our car repairs put us hours behind schedule, so it now looked like we wouldn't get there until close to midnight. Visit my website at farfromhomepodcast.org to see photos from our trip and a video of our drive on the stunning Transfăgăraș Highway in Romania. While you're there, you could also drop me a line, sign up for my newsletter to get notified when new shows are released, or follow me on Facebook, Instagram, or Twitter. Coming up next time, we continue trying to solve our car problems, and we have Turkey all to ourselves, with the recent turmoil scaring so many of the other visitors away.
More than 15,000 people.
More than 15,000 people lost their jobs in the tourism industry.
Yeah.
Just in the last few months.
More than 2,000 hotel is
closed. Wow.
Yes.
Oh no, that's really bad. Oh my gosh.
Thanks as always to my friends at the Public Radio Exchange for their behind-the-scenes technical help. You can check them out at prx.org. And please remember to do me a favor if you get a chance and go to iTunes and give a rating or write a quick review of this podcast to help others find it. Until next time, thanks for listening.
I've noticed a few people have said things like, oh, you know, the Mongol Rally is a great taster. You whiz through these places, but it gives you an idea of, you know, where you want to go back to. But these are people in their 20s and 30s. And I suppose I'm coming at it from a slightly different perspective, which is, this is my last opportunity to go to some of these places, so I better pull my finger out and get there. And the Mongol Rally is the way to do it.